Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows comes the best of indie podcasts. Girly Chew was a young woman who disappeared on September 9th, 1999 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She had failed to report to work, and her boss and co-workers immediately concerned for her safety, as she had told them of repeated threats she received from her estranged husband, Diazien Hossencofft. Diazien was already known to the law enforcement community and had an extensive history as a con artist. This led investigators to believe that Girly Chew was murdered, and also revealed a deeper conspiracy involving reptilian queens, UFOs, reports of cannibalism, and a youth serum that caused immortality. What's further more disturbing is Girly Chew's body has never been found. My name is DJ, and this is the Mythical True Crime Podcast. Girly Chew was born on August 27, 1963 in Malaysia. During a visit to the United States in the early 1990s, she met a man named Diazien Hossencofft at SeaWorld. In 1993, Girly and Diazien married. They resided in Albuquerque, where Girly was employed as a bank teller. In January 1999, Girly moved out of the couple's home and filed for divorce after a domestic violence incident where Diazien had threatened to kill her. She confided in her co-workers that she was afraid of her husband after she had found out that he wasn't a doctor and was using a fake name. Diazien Hossencofft was born Armand Chavez in Houston, Texas on March 5, 1965. He falsely claimed that he was a thoracic surgeon with degrees from the University of Tokyo and Cornell Medical College. In reality, he was a con artist and a complete fraud who had doctored most of his transcripts and was even expelled from medical school. Following his expulsion, he changed his name to Diazien Hossencofft and married Girly Chew. Diazien continued to trick people into believing he was a geneticist and claimed to have leukemia himself, sold fake cancer treatments to clients who would pay thousands of dollars for anti-aging injections. These injections, as it turned out, were just vitamin B6. He also claimed to be 2,000 years old and said he had invented a youth serum. The FBI became aware of his schemes in 1995 when Diazien attempted to purchase a bioreactor from Philadelphia company under a guise of conducting cell growth experiments. The company refused to sell the device due to its potential uses and contacted the FBI, but Diazien was not arrested. A Japanese woman in Canada gave birth to Diazien's son, Dimitri, in 1996. According afterwards, Diazien brought Dimitri to New Mexico and told Girly he was a Mexican orphan and they had planned to adopt him. She did not learn that the boy was the biological son of her husband until 1998 or 1999. Girly knew that Diazien was unfaithful during the course of their marriage. He was cited in 1998, a domestic violence incident, after choking and threatening to kill his wife. Girly told authorities that Diazien became enraged when she confronted his girlfriend, who at the time was one of 3 different women. Girly moved out of their residence in January 1999 and relocated into an apartment at the 8400 block of Spain Road, took a job at a bank. She hired an attorney and initiated divorce proceedings shortly thereafter. Girly told a co-worker and an FBI agent who was investigating Diazien's exploits that he had repeatedly threatened to kill her. She told her co-worker to contact authorities and ask them to investigate Diazien if anything ever happened to her. Girly said that she suspected that he had smashed her car's windshield on 2 separate occasions after she had already moved out of the house. She also began taking karate lessons for self-defense. Diazien was having an affair again with one of three different women, one of them being Albuquerque resident Linda Henning. Now, Henning was born October 10th, 1953, in Hollywood, California. After high school, she worked as a fashion model, later became a successful fashion designer. When she met Diazien, she quickly broke up with her then fiance and engaged Diazien. Her and Diazien had shared interest in government conspiracy theories and UFOs. Girly learned that Diazien had attempted to place their son for adoption with another couple around the same time. Investigators believed he wanted his wife to drop any custodial or property rights and began plotting her murder then. Girly was last seen departing from work after her shift ended on September 9th, 1999. Diazien sped into his driveway on Moon Street hours later. Neighbors reported that his face and neck were covered with black grease paint, and it had appeared that he was wearing a forest green or camouflage print shirt. Girly's co-workers became concerned with her welfare when she failed to arrive at her 8 a.m. bank shift job on September 10th. Her friends summoned authorities by 8:10 and reported her disappearance. It was at this time that Detective Michael Fox checked her home for any evidence of wrongdoing and noticed the overwhelming smell of bleach, often used to cover up blood. Investigators used luminol, which is a chemical that emits a glowing light when it comes into contact with blood under black light. The results were frightening. Stains on the floor lit up, quote, like a Christmas tree. Investigators searched further and discovered evidence of a struggle, and more pools of blood who appeared to have been wiped again with bleach. Testing later determined that the blood in the apartment was that of Girly, Henning, and a third, unidentified source. Girly's blood-splattered pink and orange shorts, green and white blouse, and green panties were discovered along the side of Highway 60, southwest of Belen, New Mexico, later that day. The clothing had been wrapped in a blood-stained gray tarp, along with some duct tape with a strand of Henning's hair attached. Girly's purse, however, had been found discarded on a nearby street. Prior to Girly's disappearance, Diazien told his neighbors that he was dying of leukemia and had only 5 months to live. He told several people that he had planned to visit Toronto, Ontario, Canada, or El Paso, Texas for medical treatments. Diazien left Albuquerque on September 10th and traveled to South Carolina, where he was apprehended several weeks later. He was initially charged with just placing threatening phone calls to 3 people in New Mexico. After this quick message, we'll be right back.
Hello there, listeners. Whether you're new or you've been with me from the start, a great way to catch up and dive deeper into the world of mythical true crime is to check out my earlier shows. I've covered everything from Bigfoot to aliens and ghosts. Take a moment and browse through the past episodes, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Your support means everything to me.
Now, during the weeks that Diazien had disappeared, the police were able to question Henning, who showed up as a personal reference on papers belonging to Diazien. Henning claimed she didn't know him very well and believed he was a doctor suffering with leukemia, same as stories he's told others. Days later, hundreds of miles away from Albuquerque, a road worker had found the bloody clothes in a tarp, linking the physical evidence of Henning's hair to her. Police removed the carpet from Girly's apartment, so forensic investigators combined with the fibers of the DNA evidence. Minuscule samples were used to create a DNA profile that was compared to known samples taken from Girly and Linda Henning. The carpet also had a large number of cat hairs, which were also linked back to Henning, who owned several cats. Police believed Henning was covering for Diazien. Trace evidence found on the bloody clothes yielded DNA again from both Girly and Diazien. Henning was arrested, and both she and Diazien were charged with murder, though police still weren't sure of what Henning's full involvement was. They believed that she was an accomplice, brainwashed to act with Diazien. Friends noticed a change in Henning's manner, as she was hostile, threatening, and extremely unpleasant, where once she had been kind, sensitive, and friendly. In October 1999, Henning was officially charged with making false statements to a grand jury about Girly's disappearance. Authorities again learned that she had believed that Diazien's false claims and attempted to convince her friends that he was an established scientist. Henning's loved ones came to her defense and insisted that she had been drugged and brainwashed by Diazien. Prior to this involvement with Diazien, she had never been in trouble with the law before. In November 1999, both Henning and Diazien were indicted for Girly's murder. Diazien pleaded guilty to his role in Girly's homicide in January 2002, just to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life plus 61 years in prison. Henning's trial began in the summer of 2002. Henning pleaded not guilty to the charges of first-degree murder, and at her trial, Diazien testified that he was a reptilian shapeshifter and capable of being in several places at one time. He implied Girly's body had also been cannibalized. Henning confirmed this, claiming that she had ate the victim's flesh. New Mexico prosecutors say that she told at least 4 other people that she had ate the flesh of Girly Chew and drank her blood. Diazien said that he had allowed militia member William Bill Miller to murder Girly for practice before the climax of the alien New World Order. Because of the blood evidence at Girly's apartment, authorities believe Henning may have been injured during the struggle with Girly prior to Girly's presumed homicide. Diazien claimed he had stopped at his estranged wife's apartment at a prearranged time on September 9th and attempted to clean the blood and additional evidence left at the scene. Diazien then said he had returned home and located a refrigerated vial of unidentified women's blood. He occasionally obtained blood samples from others under the guise of scientific research. He claimed that the vial broke before he could pour it out inside Girly's apartment to throw investigators off track. He said that he had used a sample of Henning's blood in its place and diluted it with bleach as an attempt to impede DNA testing. Diazien maintained that Henning was not involved in Girly's murder. He implicated Miller was the sole attacker. Henning was found guilty of murder, kidnapping, conspiracy, perjury, and evidence tampering, and was acquitted on the 10 other charges. She was sentenced to 73 years in prison and was spared the death penalty. However, she still maintains her innocence. Investigators did not believe Miller was responsible for the murder, and he was only charged with evidence tampering, to which he pled guilty and was sentenced to 10 months probation. Diazien never revealed the location of his wife's remains, but authorities believe Girly's body is probably within the Socorro County, possibly along US 60 near Datl. Foul play is suspected in her disappearance due to the circumstances involved. Now, in the aftermath of all this, Albuquerque television journalist Mark Horner wrote and published a book in 2004 about the murder of her, entitled September Sacrifice. Later in 2010, Linda's perjury convictions were overturned by the New Mexico Supreme Court. However, all of her other convictions and her sentence were affirmed. The story of Girly Chew's murder has also been televised on several television shows such as Crime Stories, Court TV, American Justice, to name others. Additionally, this story was covered by NBC Dateline in 2003. In January of 2020, Diazien Hossencofft made a request to a judge to vacate his life sentence, claiming that prosecutors and police colluded to hide evidence that would have exonerated both him and Linda Henning. In a statement to Judge Alicia Hart, Hossencoft's attorney asked for a 6 months extension to collect evidence involving global connections, which was granted. He was quoted saying, "Society views murder as the most heinous crime known to mankind. Like when you decide you're going to commit murder, you decide you're going to trade life for theirs. I did that." His testimony is hard to forget. He continued, "She knew she was going to be hunted like a dog. And yes, she ran like a scared rabbit in an open field. She knew I was coming for her." In the more than 400-page letter to a judge, he makes claims and provides pages of interviews and evidence. The biggest claims are that his sentences were illegal, and he was denied due process because of collusion. His attorneys failed at their jobs, and he was forced into a plea deal. Hossencoft claims prosecutors were colluding with Albuquerque police to hide evidence that would have exonerated both him and his mistress, Linda Henning. During a court hearing, Hossencoft's attorney asked the judge for more time as he gets his facts organized. In the exact quote, Judge Hart said, "And you absolutely feel like you need 6 months." His attorney, John McCall, stated, "I do, Your Honor. I do not want to give you too many details, but this case involves global connections." After which point, Judge Hartz grants the 6-month extension. Now, that was back in 2020, and there are no updates to this case. Girly Chew is still missing. If you have any information, I'm going to link in the show notes below to the Charlie Project to help and hopefully identify where she might be. Some more details in the case are she's been missing since September 9th, 1999 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She's a female of Asian race. Her birth date is August 27th, 1963. She was 36 years old at the time of her disappearance. Her height is 5'1", weight 95 pounds. Distinguishing characteristics are she is an Asian female with black hair, brown eyes, both ears are pierced, and her maiden name is Chew. Her full name is Girly Chew Hossencofft. And any information will be very welcome. Investigating agency is Albuquerque Police Department at phone number area code 505-761-8800. And now I'd like to take some time to talk about my affiliate, Buzzsprout. Let's get your podcast launched. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, having a message that you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all major podcast directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more, within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over the 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Let's create something great together. Following the link in the show notes below, you'll let Buzzsprout know that I sent you, and I'll get a little kickback when you sign up for a paid plan which helps support the show. You can also subscribe on the link below, which helps me out monetarily and keeps the show going. I personally use Buzzsprout, and I've used it since I've started this podcast. It really makes it easy, and they also have links and directories and even articles to help you prepare and continue your podcast journey. You could just have to start with some gear that you might already have in a quiet place. If you want to upgrade, Buzzsprout has tons of guides to help you find the right equipment in the right place. Buzzsprout gets your show listed at every major podcast platform, and you'll get a great looking podcast website, audio players that you can just drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, and more. Podcasting isn't hard, again, when you have the right partners, and teaming with Buzzsprout is passionate to help you succeed. I'd also like to thank my subscribers. A new one I just got is Mary in California. Thank you, Mary, for subscribing. You can too subscribe by clicking the link below to the Mythical True Crime Plus membership. Just helps me make great content for more listeners and continue on more stories. You can support monthly as little as $3, and some of the benefits you get are like a thank you email or even a shout out in the next episode. Just check the show notes below and you'll see there where you can subscribe and also view my website and all my other social media info from Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, any subscriptions, it is a big thank you from the bottom of my heart. It lets me continue to do this and bring you more stories more often. Now, if you have any questions about what I do or the Charlie Project, please reach out to me on social media. I can give you some information about the Charlie Project if you're not already familiar. I've mentioned them several times throughout my broadcasts, typically involving missing persons. Now, I could easily more tell you what Charlie Project does not do. The Charlie Project does not offer any sort of offline presence. It's not affiliated with like private investigators or even law enforcement. It doesn't distribute flyers of missing people. It actually doesn't even actually investigate missing person cases or homicides. It doesn't try to match missing persons with unidentified bodies. It doesn't accept any tips from the public about any missing persons. You're probably asking yourself now, well, what does the Charlie Project do? Well, the Charlie Project serves as a publicity vehicle of a clearinghouse of information of missing persons. It attempts to catalog as much information as possible about as many cases as possible into a database that publicity or investigative aid for the public or law enforcement might help them solve. A wide variety of sources are used, such as other databases, news media accounts, law enforcement, information supplied by friends or family of the actual missing persons, books, and any other information therein is summarized on each missing person's Charlie Project case file. In this way, instead of having to track down, say, 20 different news articles from 5 different news sources about one missing person, an interested party can simply go to the Charlie Project website and find all this information on one place. Now, Charlie is a nickname of Charles Brewster Ross, who was abducted from his home in Germantown, Pennsylvania in 1874. It's when he was 4 years old. His family spent the rest of their lives looking for him, in search of extended basically all over the world and gained international attention. His was by no means the first kidnapping in the United States, but it was one of the first highly publicized ones. Unfortunately, sadly, it was unsuccessful. Charlie would remain lost forever. There was no evidence to what happened in his fate. His story had been nearly forgotten even today. He may have died shortly after his disappearance. He may have even lived out his entire life under some other identity with some other family. Never learned he was missing. TheCharlieProject.org is a site that was named after and in honor of Charlie, so that his memory and the memories of any other long missing people in this country would not be forgotten. His pictures also show up on the website banners if you go to the website. And again, I'm linking this in the show notes below. This concludes tonight's story. If you enjoyed it, again, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode. My name is DJ, and this is the Mythical True Crime Podcast. Good night.
And that concludes another captivating episode, delving into the world of mythical true crime. I appreciate you joining me tonight as we listen to the facts from these true crime tales. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll uncover even more mysteries. Until then, thank you for listening to tonight's episode. Good night.